Control deck, we have Hercules away.
It's...
Copy that.
Control deck, that is Hercules past the transom.
Roger.
Control deck, that is tether all out.
Copy that, tether out.
Control deck, that's Atalanta in the water.
Yeah, no rush, Gabby.
Control winch. Control winch. Yeah, I got you loud and clear. All stop 50 meters. Are you ready for control?
Yeah, depth should be 2,300. Yep.
Do we have the lights on by chance? I'm just getting a very dark Atalanta image. Oops. Would you mind? Yes, thank you. Yeah, I like to see the 4, that way I don't accidentally like hit record on other things. Mhm. Okay.
I'm going to go ahead and audio slate. This is an audio slate for dive H2070. UTC time is 021710 mark.
Yeah. Yeah, can you just do something for my brain? Civic Bravo. It's not in that quad box, so I can't see what's recording, and you don't have it on the other monitor. A little nervous Nelly over here. There we go, thank you. Yeah, it is. They're not up yet. Because it's not on our recorders. But you can look. Yeah, they're not up yet. They're in the middle of something. Yeah, it sounds like they have something happening. Can you see if you can get anything out of that Atalanta still? Just do the trick again. Okay.
All right, copy that.
Copy, and we will take note of that time for our notes.
Copy that.
All right, front seat, are just checking in. Are we good to go? We're good? No? Oh, I don't think they're on. Yes. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I did.
Science, just so you know, we're headed down. Do you guys copy?
Yeah, did you guys figure out the ground fault, or?
We did not. We're going to run with it.
Okay.
Yeah, just... Yeah, it's just a question of whether it's on like a critical piece of equipment or something like that. I think it's on that port valve pack. I just can't justify it. Yeah. I think we would have seen a reaction from two things. And there isn't, I think the only thing, yeah, I don't know. I'm just hoping it's not in the bottle. There's been a lot of
Check, check, check. Cool. And we're back. Yep. Bit deeper. Port and starboard valve packs. It's the low point in the system of the for the main comp. And there's no good way to drain it, so we should probably look into putting a drain on those so we can consistently kind of just flush out some of the volume, move any water that gets in out of there.
It says solstice, the jelly. It's one of the few that I know. There's a lot of jellies out there. Oh, like the lion's mane ones? They're like
Siphonophores? The massive ones? Isn't it a colony of organisms or something? Isn't that? What's that one?
Oh, like the pyrosomes, the really big pyrosomes?
Good afternoon, everyone. Would this be a good time to do some introductions?
Yeah, I think so.
All right. So, starting with me first, my name is yyyy-mm-dd, and I am the Science Communication Fellow for this watch.
Lee, good afternoon. Aloha, everyone. Daniel Wagner, watch leads on this watch and expedition leader on this expedition.
Good afternoon, everybody. Maikane Andres here, scientist for this watch.
Hi everyone, my name is May Lubetkin and I'm the science manager on the ship and the data logger on this watch.
In the front row, you have your navigating nudibranch, Megan.
Jake Bonney in the Herc seat.
Aaron Rainey, video engineer.
Thank you.
No. Yeah. No, yeah. Could be like a siphonophore. Like, it was like long, but then it had tentacles coming down, kind of like a curtain. Yeah. It's a siphonophore of some kind. Yeah. Yeah, they're not good swimmers, so they can't just like get out of the way, and when it gets close to the vehicle, the prop wash can break them apart. They're really fragile. There generally isn't large, like solid things in the water column.
I'm just running it. We're gonna have to run it.
We have a viewer that's very interested in your nudibranch onesie.
Yeah.
Wants to know, where did you get it?
I got it on the Amazon.
There you go.
It's super comfy, highly recommend, perfect for control vans and cold weather. There's a siphonophore in Atalanta. Oh, went away. Yeah, I just searched nudibranch costume, and this came up, and I was like, yes, I need it in my life, absolutely.
As one does, searching for that term.
But there are all sorts of onesie options for whatever your passion is. I feel like everybody should have onesies next year.
Yeah, if I turn both of them off.
You have to turn both of them off.
Yeah.
I turned one of them off at a time, but they were interacting. So like if I turn, yeah. But if you turn them both off.
Yeah, I think they're both grounded.
So Daniel, would this be a good time for a question?
Sure.
Could you let us know what is the dive that we're about to do?
Sure. Yeah, thanks for that question, Imade. So just to orient folks a little bit. So we are currently in the northernmost portion of the expedition, the northernmost section that we actually are planning to reach. We're about 70 nautical miles north of Velasco Reef, well within the boundary of the Palau National Marine Sanctuary, and diving on a very interesting feature. So there is, just north of Velasco Reef, there's a very, very long ridge, extends for over 50 nautical miles. It's got this very narrow top, extending in a north to south direction, and we're diving on the northernmost extent of that ridge. And today is also going to be quite a bit deeper dive, so we're going to be landing on a seafloor at depth about 2,300 meters, so still have about 1,400 meters of descent to go. And then we're going to be landing on the flank of that ridge and moving up along towards the top of it. We've put out quite an ambitious plan, so we'll probably not be able to make it all the way to the top, but we'll try to cover some ground. Again, this is going to be one of the deeper dives on this expedition, targeting depths between about 2,300 meters and about 1,800 meters. And really just basic exploration. These are areas that haven't been surveyed before. They have been a couple of dives just to our east by Jamstack on their manned submersible a while ago, over a decade ago. But on this ridge itself, no dives have ever been done, and this is the first time that any human eyes will lay eyes on them. And for those that watched the dive yesterday, that was quite a stunning dive. Quite a bit of diverse habitats and assortment of invertebrate as well as vertebrate species. Today we're going to be going quite a bit deeper, so we expect to find lower densities of animals, but still should be very interesting. And then also another interesting feature, yesterday's dive, most of that habitat was carbonate, so calcium carbonate is secreted by coral reef organisms. That's typically found when you have an island in the tropics. Coral reefs grow on it and they produce the carbonate. Now coral reefs are limited to depths about 100 meters. Yesterday we dove about 1,000 meters, so quite a bit deeper. So that area, that carbonate did not form at that 1,000 meters. It had sunk by considerable amount of time over geological time scales. And so yeah, we'll get a sense of what the substrate is here.
Do we have an estimated time of arrival when we reach the seafloor?
Yeah, so it should be in about 45 minutes from now. So that should be about 1 o'clock local time in Palau. So about 1,300 meters to go. And so yeah, we should be acquiring bottom at about 2,300 meters. And then the plan will be, once we reach the seafloor, our kind of first order of business is going to be collecting one environmental DNA sample. So that's one thing I didn't mention. So today's dives is actually almost right underneath a environmental DNA monitoring site that the Palau International Coral Reef Center has been targeting for the last 2 years, starting in November 2021. They started their environmental eDNA program, just getting surface samples. And so yeah, we're very happy and excited to be supporting this monitoring program. So an environmental DNA sample was collected at the surface right at this site. And then in addition to that, we'll be able to collect some samples below it deeper, and then that way get a complete cross-section of what lives both on the seafloor and in the water column. We'll be triggering Niskin bottles at different depths, and yeah, just seeing what lives in these habitats.
Thank you, Daniel. To the front row, is this a good time to ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yep.
Okay, so the question is there ever any worry of marine life, particularly large marine life, bringing any sort of damage to the ROV?
Usually no, but actually this past summer I was quite surprised. I was working for a different ROV group, and we were in the Gulf of Mexico, and we had a swordfish somewhat attack the ROV.
Yeah, they'll do that.
On 2 different occasions, and one time damaged some hydraulic lines, and caused the dive to be aborted. So it happens, but it's very rare.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that happened to the Pisces sub once.
Yeah.
Like, swordfish came at it, cut a hydraulic line, and they had to abort their dive, but everybody was fine.
Yeah. I don't know if they feel threatened or what it is. Or
they're very territorial. Yeah, so they're more of a charge first, ask questions later. But the piece of its sword got stuck in the sub, and it's still there.
All right, thank you. And then a question to the science team. So, what's the greatest research you've ever found doing these type of expeditions?
Like the coolest thing we've seen?
They just said, what is the greatest research?
Well, this is the greatest research. We're doing it right now.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's a very broad question. So, I mean, for the Ocean Exploration Trust and Exploration Vessel Nautilus, we have been in operation for 15 years. Been out at sea in all major oceans except the Indian Ocean and the poles. Yeah, over 2,000 ROV dives, mapped over 1 million square kilometers, documented over 100 shipwrecks, many dozens of species already described, and many hundreds to be described from specimens that were collected. So there's a whole suite of stats you could talk about, but I think, yeah, what Megan alluded to is really the right answer, and it's always exciting. It's also about the process, and we're really proud of that process. So this expedition was co-developed, co-designed with input from many local stakeholders in Palau. So the funding was provided by NOAA's Office of Ocean Exploration and Research in contribution to a commitment made by the U.S. government a couple years ago to help map this very special area here, the Palau National Marine Sanctuary. And besides just basic exploration, a big part of the ethos of our mission at the Ocean Exploration Trust is to make sure that these expeditions are locally relevant and culturally appropriate. We don't just want to use our cutting-edge technologies to discover new places, but to make sure that the information we collect is directly relevant to ongoing work. And that's why we're very proud and happy that we've got such a tremendous partner in the Palau International Coral Reef Center who helped us plan this work for the last year. And yeah, it's an exciting process, and it's a wonderful mission too, in terms of the mission of the Palau National Marine Sanctuary of really safeguarding a big portion of Palau's extensive marine habitats for future generations to come, and us being here, being able to provide a small part of basically laying eyes on these deep reefs and getting that information to stakeholders in Palau. So it's very exciting to be part of this longer journey.
Thank you. Now we have a viewer that's interested to know if the ROVs descend straight down or do they ever descend at an angle?
Yeah, we go straight down, but we can move the ship while we're going down. So say we want to get to a specific point, and we didn't launch right on that position, we can change our position during descent. So in essence, we can move on an angle.
Cool, thank you.
I'd also like to take a moment to acknowledge, talked about tremendous partners of the Palau International Coral Reef Center. So you've heard on previous watches, for those that joined us yesterday, on what was truly a spectacular and very scenic dive. You heard the voices of our onboard science leads, Dr. Jeff Drazen from the University of Hawaii at Manoa, who was also on previously, and Dr. Brian Kennedy from the Ocean Discovery League. The voice that you're not hearing is the voice of Ikelau Oto, Chief Researcher at the Palau International Coral Reef Center, who is co-leading this expedition from shore, joining us in the planning discussions, reviewing and creating the dive plans, and also present in the chat. So really appreciative for all of Ikelau's efforts of helping execute this from shore.
Okay, so to all our new listeners, we are roughly 70 nautical miles north of Velasco Reef, and we estimate to reach the bottom of the seafloor around 1 p.m. local time. Another question to the science team. What is you guys' favorite animal or animal group to work with or encounter?
I'm very biased because I've been working with corals, so corals is by far my favorite. But one of the things that I've been wanting to get into is a little bit of fish biology. Yeah.
I'm more of a geologist, and so I think if I could say I most enjoy working at freshly erupted volcanic environments on the seafloor or hydrothermal vent ecosystems. I think those are really, really cool, and I've done most of my research in those settings. But with Nautilus, I kind of always say this animal when I get asked this question, so maybe I should pick a new one, but Deepstaria enigmatica I think is just incredible, and this is a very large Medusa jelly that is like 1 meter wide, and I think it's just really amazing to see animals that we don't collect, and we can just get sort of a morphology, a shape understanding, and a movement understanding of them by seeing them in the video, and just sort of witnessing something in the blue water also, not on the seafloor, is feels like a special moment, because often we're just looking at marine snow like we are now. What about you, Daniel?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I mean, I really kind of like more of the forest approach. So I love those moments where you kind of zoom out and you forget about the individual organisms, but you see the landscape and seeing the real forests and communities, and yeah, those are the moments that for me are most special. Is because, yeah, I think for most viewers that have never seen the deep sea or thought about it, when they think about the deep sea, they think about this void, this emptiness, and that couldn't be farther from the truth if you know where to look. And yesterday already we saw, and if you find the right places, there's in some places comparable kind of densities to what you see in some shallow water habitats, and just in general in the deep sea, the animals that you see there are some similar groups in some cases, but in terms of the ecology and the life history of these animals, these are fundamentally different. Most animals in the deep sea are much slower growing, much longer lived. They reproduce longer in life. They're just kind of more adapted to a stable environment that has been relatively stable over millennia. And so these are very special. This is, for those that are from California, have been there, this is kind of like your redwood forests. These are all very, very long-lived animals, but then even longer adapted communities. So when you see an ecosystem that has evolved, it has taken millions of years for all those species to get there. When you have, for example, a volcanic island starting to emerge, coming from and then building slowly over time a seamount and eventually an island, but before it reaches the island, in some cases you have these very isolated seamounts, and then things have to get there. As I mentioned, things reproduce very slow, and what you're looking at is not what your weeds in a garden. Now, what you're looking at is a forest that has been there for a very, very, very long time. So it's really special, and also a lot different for those people that live closer to human population centers and cities. So these are still impacted, but a lot less impacted than most ecosystems that we have on Earth. There's this global problem that we have of the shifting baseline, that every subsequent generation thinks that the environments that they see are normal. Of course, when you talk to your grandparents and your great-grandparents, they will tell you that things look very different than the past. And places like this, places like the Palau National Marine Sanctuary that have been close to destructive activities, these are kind of your ecological baselines, windows into the past. Gives you an idea of what a natural ecosystem should look like in the absence of human stressors.
I think it'd be cool if we saw a nudibranch. I don't know, I might be biased though.
But are there any like deep sea nudies?
Oh, absolutely.
What? That's insane.
They're down there.
Well, I hope we see one.
You have to keep your eyes peeled. They're sometimes hard to spot because they're small.
A viewer wants to know, what are the white dots floating across the monitors?
marine snow. It's a little particulate matter. Some of the things could be small animals as well.
Okay.
It's the food. It's the food that supplies the deep sea, all this little marine snow and organic matter that comes down from the surface is what all the animals down there are feeding on. Like the corals and the sponges. And if you pay close attention, you might see some cool stuff. So far, we've seen some siphonophores, some ctenophores, small jellies coming through the screen.
So to all our new listeners, we are approximately 70 nautical miles north of Velasco Reef inside the Palau National Marine Sanctuary. We are expected to reach a max depth of 2,298 meters. And it is also expected that we will reach the bottom of the seafloor around 1 p.m. local time.
I was just going to add one to Megan's answer earlier about the deep sea nudibranch. So last September, Nautilus was doing some work in the northwestern Hawaiian Islands and documented a couple of deep sea slugs. There's some stunning highlight videos and images on our website, nautiluslife.org.
Yeah, there's one that I really like that has these little yellow balls on the top of its gills. So it's like pink and it's got these little yellow balls, kind of like sprinkles. They're really cute. It's one of my favorite things about nudibranchs is they come in all sorts of colors and patterns, even the deep sea ones.
Has there been any encounters with whales on ROV dives?
Do you want me to speed up
Yeah.
a little bit, or?
There
was a dive by Nautilus in the Gulf of Mexico where a sperm whale came by and checked out the ROV. That was pretty cool.
You can watch that on YouTube, can't you?
Yeah. That one gets played a lot. That's a really classic clip.
We've also visited quite a few whale falls. Not the same kind of experience, but still really, really exciting to see how vibrant those habitats can be for many, many years.
Yeah, whale falls are super cool. Very unique species come to feed on the whale falls that you don't see anywhere else. And those are the Ossidax polychaete worms.
Those are bone-eating worms, aren't they?
Yeah, they're bone-eating worms. Yeah,
I remember
they're
that.
super
That's
weird.
really cool. That's very Halloween-y, isn't it?
Yeah, very Halloween-y.
Okay, so speaking of...
One more thing to add here to the whales, sorry, before we, but yeah, that's a really good question and very relevant one here for this very expedition. So Palau, and the area directly proximal to the main island group is considered an important marine mammal area by the International Union for the Conservation of Nature, IUCN, and that was also one of the rationale for protecting this area, so important area for whales, and we will keep an eye out here. Obviously, both on top as well as on the seafloor.
Okay, a viewer was saying, in the spirit of Halloween, what is the weirdest or scariest thing you've seen in the deep waters?
Oh, well, my favorite creepy animal is called the rhizocephalin. It's a type of barnacle that is parasitic on top of shrimps and crabs. So it actually grows its body inside of its host. So it doesn't look anything like a barnacle as you would imagine it. And it basically zombifies the animal. And it makes it do whatever it wants, mainly activities that would help the rhizocephalin reproduce. And it oftentimes is parasitic on the males and makes that male think it's a female, and then it convinces it that its little egg sac is, important to it. And so the shrimp or crab will be, motherly towards this parasite's eggs. Super weird.
This is maybe an easy one, but the vampire squid, vampire toothus, we have some really nice footage of that. During the same expedition we saw this deep staria, we were using this really nice low light imaging camera system developed by Brennan Phillips, someone we've worked with quite a bit, and so it looks kind of almost metallic when it opens up. It's like it's a squid, and it has a very spooky kind of vampire-like appearance, but it's also just really beautiful to see move in the water.
They are really cool. And they're not dangerous. They just look a little spooky.
Yeah, they look like they're wearing a cloak or something like that.
Yeah.
The angles of the tentacles are reminiscent of vampire design or something.
Oh, chimeras are kind of fun and spooky. Call them ghost sharks. They're not sharks and they're not fish. They're their own thing. I think they're super adorable.
Thank you. So how many dives does EV Nautilus do in a year?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It varies year by year, obviously. So this is dive 2070 of ROV Hercules. So we've had 2070 dives just using Hercules as the main. There have been several dives too using mini Hercules in addition to that, and several dives using either one of our tow sleds alone. So quite a few over 15 years. And it really varies. So this year, it's probably going to be on the order of about 50 or so, but there's been 100 in the past. So it just really depends on what we're doing, and it's also striking a balance. So EV Nautilus, the main operations that we've been doing, so from when Nautilus was first acquired, is mapping has always been the foundation of what we do. So we have a series of hull-mounted sonars that we use to map the seafloor, and that's really absolutely critical to this type of work, because when you don't have a good map, there's very little you can do in terms of more detailed exploration. And then ROV dives have been the second tier of part of what Nautilus supports. But over the last several years, as part of the NOAA Ocean Exploration Cooperative Institute, the Ocean Exploration Trust is also partnering with various other Oceanographic Institution, including Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution, University of New Hampshire, University of Rhode Island, University of Southern Mississippi, and have been deploying various of their assets on Nautilus. So we just concluded an expedition in American Samoa that deployed autonomous underwater vehicles from Woods Hole, and various, we've also deployed landers, profilers, various others, and this is important in terms of what we do. So we've also, in addition to just deploying other assets, kind of been working a more holistic approach to exploration. So basically trying to deploy many different assets at the same time. So imagine right now when we just have Nautilus and the ROV, we're kind of stationary on one point of time. So we're going to be on this dive going across this long ridge, but we're really only shining a spotlight under the place that's really underneath the ship. So by deploying multiple assets, including things that are not tethered to the ship, now you can have, kind of think about a pack of dogs, and every single dog is doing a different thing, and so that gives you an ability to have a greater footprint. But there's a lot of operational considerations when you do that type of exploration. Obviously, you need more staff, more coordination, more things. But that's kind of the third part of what we as the Ocean Exploration Trust do is not just mapping and exploring the unknown of the ocean, but also integrating emerging technologies and approaches into what we do. The last 15 years that EV Nautilus has been in operation, some of these technologies have changed radically and dramatically, and so you always have to look ahead of what new technology is coming out and test it, and then integrate it with those technologies that have endured the test of time. And yeah, that's kind of a big part also of our mission.
So a follow-up question on that, since Hercules does many dives, are there any plans to upgrade any components in the near future?
Yeah, continuously. So that's last year of the off season was probably one of the most dramatic. The whole foam pack was changed. The new manipulator arm was installed, and so yeah, that's something that happens continuously. Now, some of the parts are still quite from the early days of 15 years. Some of the code, and so it's a continuous process, and typically we do a lot of that work in their off season. So this year we'll be ending our season in about right before Christmas, and then taking a break before April of next year. And taking a break is a little bit of the wrong term, because some of our team members are going to be doing their hardest work during the off season, working to get the systems running, getting to improve and integrate new things, new software, new upgrades. So yeah, it's something that happens all the time.
Thanks, Daniel. So again, to all of our new listeners, we are roughly 70 nautical miles north of Velasco Reef. We deployed or launched the ROVs around 11 a.m. this morning, and we expect to reach the bottom of the seafloor around 1 p.m. local time. The expected max depth for today's dive is also around 2,298 meters. And we will be diving for about 13 hours.
Yeah, and while we're waiting another 15 minutes or so until we reach the seafloor, just a look ahead. So today we're going to be diving till midnight, exploring a depth range about 23 to 1800, as Imade mentioned. Then after pulling off the ROVs, we're going to be transiting south and doing a work one dive on the east side of the main island group. That is actually going to be going much closer to shore than we will be for the remainder of the expedition. And that dive is one of the other kind of key components of this expedition, in addition to exploring terrain that has never been explored before and going on the offshore. We're also trying to use these dives and these surveys to systematically fill some of the gaps that were left by previous surveys. So Palau, there have been some work done here. Most recently, the National Geographic Pristine Seas group did an expedition in February and March 2024 that it deployed various different technologies, including a shallow water ROV, some beta deep sea cameras, work that our navigator and one of our other scientists, so Harold and Megan, and the Deep Animal Research Center are annotating and working with Dr. Jeff Drazen, who's also on the ship. And we've been basically, in planning this expedition, also looking closely at what data has been collected previously and where, and then deploying our assets basically to try to fill those gaps in knowledge that remain. And so, yeah, that's, and also another key component of that dive tomorrow, which is also trying to understand how the sanctuary is connected to the habitats that are much closer to shore. So now for most people, the sanctuary is, is quite a bit offshore. They will not venture into those waters. But of course, those areas serve as nursing grounds to help, and help replenish stocks and fish stocks that are closer to shore. So understanding that connectivity of how the offshore fuels the inshore is going to be an important key component of some of these surveys.
So are there any plans to explore war wreckages on this expedition?
Yeah, thanks for that question, Imade, and that is something that we hope to do. We cannot yet guarantee it because we don't yet have a good location of where to look. So for those of you who are history enthusiasts, in particular World War II enthusiasts, know that Palau was the stage of several very significant naval battles that occurred in the 1940s. Many wrecks are found on the islands themselves, on the islands of Peleliu and Angar. There's a tremendous amount of wrecks, including some that have become recreational dive sites. What people are much less familiar with, that there's over 100 large wrecks that are found way offshore out here in the Palau National Marine Sanctuary, and we've been collaborating with various archaeologists over the last year, doing archival research, trying to look at reports of what was the last known position of some of these wrecks, and yeah, we're mapping over those and see if we can detect anything that might warrant further exploration with our ROV. So it's a component that we hope will become a component of this mission, but we don't know, not yet know. So there's several really historically significant submarines and other cruisers and various other ships, and so yeah, I've been targeting some of the larger ones where we think we have a better chance. And in fact, our mapping team is looking at mapping data that was collected just prior to diving and on the way over here, because there's a couple of wrecks that are thought to be found in this area.
Thank you. Now, a question to the front row. Are there any limits to where and how deep the ROV can go?
Yep. The Hercules is rated to 4,000 meters. So there's a number of different components on the vehicle that are limited to that range, specifically the main electronics bottle. It's a very large titanium bottle that holds all of the smarts on Hercules and all of the key electronic components. It has a 1 atmosphere or air volume inside, so the water and the pressure is constantly trying to get inside of it. And then Atalanta is rated to 6,000 meters, and we've used it to go to the deepest depths that the Nautilus has ever explored last season, about 5,300 meters.
So a viewer is wondering, how is the ROV powered?
We power it from the ship, and we send power down a long winch cable that stretches all the way down to Atalanta, and then by tether to Hercules. And we send power down 3-phase power over 3 conductors all the way down to the vehicle.
Thank you, Jake.
Getting close here, about 150 meters or so to go. So a little over 5 minutes. So yeah, well, we get situated here in terms of the order of business here. So once we acquire bottom, obviously the ROV team is going to complete all of their system checks and white balances and make sure everything is ready to go for this dive. The first thing that we'll do once that is all completed is we're going to be triggering a Niskin bottle to collect an environmental DNA sample. Again, we are quite close, almost directly underneath a environmental DNA monitoring site for the sanctuary. And after that is then collected, then we'll start making our transect up. We have quite an ambitious plan laid out for today's dive. For those that are following from shore, scientists ashore, what was distributed as the dive plan is a tract of close to 2 kilometers of seafloor, transversing a depth range about 600 meters. We'll try to make as much ground as possible in that transect. It's likely that we'll not make it all the way to the top. But yeah, we'll try to find a good balance between documenting the animals that we see, getting good zooms, getting some samples as we need, and covering ground.
A question for today's dive, or maybe the upcoming dives. Are earthquakes ever a concern, considering Palau is near areas of high seismic activities?
Yeah, for the dives themselves, yeah, not for us. Obviously, for people and tsunami warnings, so that'd be the major concern. But yeah, not for dive planning purposes. Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, it brings a good question. Some of our dives and some of the surveys, again, when we were off American Samoa just recently,
Keep coming down?
documenting geohazards, for example, is an interest. So in places where there might be slumps, where there might be failures, big parts of the substrate basically coming down that could create tsunamis. So that's something that we have done, is done surveys to assess conditions around places that might create, tsunamis or similar kind of conditions.
Thank you.
There it is.
Hey.
All right, you can hold there.
Okay. Holding.
Yeah, very interesting. A lot of sediment here, so you can even see sand ripples.
Can click Atalanta and auto heading.
All right.
And bring your heading to 180. Go. All right. Gauges all look good?
All good.
Sweet. To track the camera, you can set up for doing white balance.
Thank you.
All right. All right, go for zoom there. tilt up the arm.
Okay, the camera's going to go black for a second.
Copy.
All right, thank you.
That tape needs some scrubbing.
It does need some scrubbing. Great, thank you so much.
Yep.